Shalom. Welcome to Sulamot Professional Development Series. Today we'll discuss Class E and all about the gradebook, different ways to see how our students are doing. Our agenda for today will be the different levels of the gradebook. We can see the results by question, by lesson, or by unit. We can discuss a little bit about the open question and how we can see it and mark it, the weight that we give to different questions, and a little bit we'll see about the student's view as well. So let's go into Class C. I have in front of me the teacher's view, and right now we are on Sulamot Labachot, Bachot Adgama, that's the name of the class. Again, it's just an example. It works with our products, other products as well. It's a Class E format that we're trying to concentrate on. So if you are using a different product on Class E, that's fine. The features should be similar enough to follow. So let's start about, to help me to demonstrate. So I have myself as a fake student 3, and I also have myself again as a different student name, and I will be able to see what we can see about the unit. So we'll concentrate just on the first few lessons. My students, a lot of my students did this unit over here, this ComDot. Some of them started 2, and not enough of them started anything else. So we'll just see what they did. Now, to see inside, I have 3 ways of seeing the information. I can concentrate just on the lesson. That would be this results over here. I can look at the entire unit, entire class by looking over here by the grades, or I can click inside and see per question. So let's go for the more specific and move outwardly to the more general. So let's look at specifically this lesson. Again, we're just looking as an example. And this lesson does not have a lot. If I look at the ruler, it's only 2 slides and only 3 questions that I can answer. And I would like to see my students, how they did on this lesson. And I press over here, the results. And I see again, I have only 3 students. I see that Rabbi Friedman did not answer any of my questions. I see my fake student did answer all of them, got only partial correctly on the 3rd one. I see that Rabbi Munitz did very lousy, just answered 2 partial questions, got the wrong answer to some of them, and totally ignored the last question. I would like to see a little bit more details, so let's just see the question. Let's see this question, for example. And this is the question. And you see that fake student 3 did very, very well. If you look at Rabbi Munitz's results, you see that he started well, but he did not do well towards the end. He mixed up the din and the tam. And you see Rabbi Friedman, I can also see that the black circle means he did not answer it, but if I'll click on it, the computer will tell me no answer as of yet. So let's go into the key to what we're looking at. We're not looking at the different questions. I have a key that they have to know. As I'm looking at my slides and any questions, I should have a key on the bottom over here as I go along, hiding all the way at the bottom. It shows me that I have, in this specific question, we already know the information, but it's just a different way of seeing it. I have 1 student, this is the last question, open question. Write your own story that matches up to the colors of the topics of ComDot, and then when you're done, color them accordingly. I see already that I have 2 students that did not answer it. We know that Rabbi Moritz and Rabbi Friedman did not answer the question. If they did answer but did not press submit, that will be this open circle. They start working but did not press submit. This will be the 3 options, whether they got it correctly or incorrectly or partial correctly. So we know the Rabbi Moritz got it partial correctly. If it's got it correctly, I'm sorry, in this case, only one person got partial correctly and the other two did not answer it. Okay, if I look at the press again at the bar, I will see the results again. In different format, we already saw it. In this specific question, two did not answer it, and if a student wrote a beautiful story about the first day of school, when it's the first day of school, that will be the quick review for ComDat. That will be the heading, the koteret. When it's the first day of school, I feel that will be a mikre. I feel nervous. That will be the din. Because I don't know what my class will be like. That will be a tam. If they are smart and studious, that will be mikre. I will have to prepare a lot of extra material for them. Din. If they don't like to learn, mikre, I will have to be very creative. Din. My principal says, Omer, that we have to be very serious on the first day. That will be what he has to say. That will be the mikre. Because it will set the tone for the rest of the year. Tam. Beautiful story. I have to give myself fake student an amazing clapping of hands. But unfortunately, he did not color like he was supposed to. And therefore, he did not get the full credit for it. We'll see how to give the partial credit very, very soon. So let's go back into let's exit for this part of the question. So we saw there are really two ways to see the question specific results of the students. Now let's look at a more external view of the lesson. Let's look at the entire lesson and we can get it from the outside. And I'll press this button over here. And now I see that I have, again, the three students that I have, the three questions that they have to fill in. And now I see that I give weights to each one. So the first question was 3, the second was 3, and the fourth one was worth 4 points. I did it because I really wanted the lesson to be worth 10 points because it would be easy for me to grade, easy for me to follow. So that's what I gave. Once I populate those numbers, then the computer will automatically decide how to reevaluate again and give each student the maximum. Now, over here, I press on it. So here's the question, and here's the answer of the student. And over here is when it's an open question, which means I have to read what the students read and wrote and how to decide how much to give him. So in this point in time, I read this beautiful story that he has, and I chose to give him 2 points. Let's make it, it's a gorgeous story, so I'll just give him 3, and I'll save the grade. And I also wrote him feedback, and we'll see how to see that soon. You see, you got the feedback. And in this feedback, I saw the great story, no colors, please try again. I can go to see, once I have an open view of a specific question, it's an open end, and I need to see a lot of questions. I don't have to do this for every single student, go back and forth. I just basically going to go to the next student and see what they wrote on the previous question. And they will say that what they did is because to make myself an easier time. But that is the system that I have in order to grade the students' work as a lesson unit. Now, this was just one lesson. Obviously, if I want to have the entire the entire class to be graded, then every lesson is worth a specific point. And that is what this external button over here, the grades. Over here, we see the entire 40-something units that we have for this lesson, for this class. And if you notice that obviously most of them is black and I populated, did not answer all those questions, but a few of them I did. I did the Mavola Perek Aleph, and I did also Mavola Kamdat. And again, I can click on it. I can see what the student did specifically in that question. But please pay attention that if it's automatically generated question, in other words, the fill-in or multiple choice, the computer can do the work for me, then the number's already populated. Okay, so FS3 got 9 points over here, and Rabbi Muniz got 3 points over here. And I'm overcome that Rabbi Muniz did not answer any question, and FS3 has a magnifying glass. Why is that? How come there's no grades over here? So I open it up and I see over here is because although I have the students is pretty much marked, all the questions are closed questions that the computer can grade for me, but over here there's an open question. An open question that needs to be answered. So the question in the test was, why do we think that's important to remind ourselves of Chol Moshe every day? And FS3 turns, we love Hashem. And now I have to grade it. So it's very important to love Hashem, but that was not exactly the point. So I'm going to just give him 1 point. I'm going to save the grade. And besides saving the grade, I can also give him feedback. And the feedback that I will do is basically tell him, you know, please try again. Nice, but try again. And I'll send it. Okay? So now FS3 has a letter from me over here. The other two did not even bother answering. I'll tell them in class, guys, I see that too many of you did not participate actively in the homework, so please do so. So this is the lesson. Now, again, I'm going to come out of the lesson. Please notice that now the magnifying glass is gone and I have 1 point and a cute letter to the students. So there's no more open questions over here. And now when I go back to my grade of the entire class, entire curriculum that we have Parak Aleph, so now I have already FS3 got his 4 points, there's no magnifying glass. And now we're ready to move onwards. Now, I don't suggest you populate initially, but obviously all these units are worth 10 points, and that's what it's 10 points over here. There's no grade yet. There's no grade per se, because there are 42 units and not all of them is worth it. And the Mavor maybe later on decide the Mavor is interesting to give the grade as a feedback, but I don't want to be included as part of the report card grade material. So I'm going to discount it and not give any points. But as the Mishnayot information is filled in. But the point is that at this point in time, if I do want to include it, by coloring this button over here, this just became part of my grade. So my total grade, obviously, out of all these units, this 10 points is worth only 1 point. Now it's even worth even less to Rabbi Muniz because it's not worth enough. Oops, sorry. But obviously, as I populated more and more information will be there, then obviously the grade of the class will make sense. So that's what this button over here is, and that is the grade system. Good. So we covered so far, let's quickly review. We'll discuss how I'm going to look at the question for questions as the lesson is going by in the unit itself. I can click on the question itself. And I can look at each question itself and to see on the bottom who answered what. And I can get a feedback on how they did specifically in that question. I can look at totally at the lesson actually in 2 ways. Either by clicking on the outside or once you're in, I can look at the bar over here on the top. Again, I will see all the questions with the ability to see each one. I can not click into the lesson and just look on the outside. A view from the outside will give me the same point. I will look at the lesson by pressing here is the table again. It's important to make sure that they give weights to those questions. Without it, I fill the information, but it doesn't populate any grades for me. This is where I put how much the question is worth, the unit is worth. And lastly, if I want to see the grade of all those lessons together, that will be over here, okay? If I give a weight to the entire lesson, and if I want to be including the average, I dock it over here, I press a button, and now it's automatically included in the grade system. Now, I suggest to be careful with the grades and not to populate this, wait until the very, very end to decide how you're going to do it and what's for you. Most of the schools that we deal with tell us that they have their own system, which is not related to conduct. And don't waste too much energy about populating. You'll figure out by then to see whether the students are doing well or not. You can wait with that. Don't bother yourself showing them every step of the way. Last but not least, we'll discuss the student view. Oh, one more thing. When I edit the lesson, so I create basically different slides or different information. So in this case, for example, I would like to have a new slide over here. And now I have a new slide. And over here, I'm going to put more questions. Right? And the question is going to be whatever it's going to be, and I'm going to give the choices. And the point, obviously, if you remember from different clips, the point over here is that this is the correct answer. The others are not. Right? So I saved the question. So now I have a question. Now, very important to note is that I have to give this question weight within the system. It was not there originally. And that's what this A button is over here. By pressing the A button, now I have my verbiage question over here, which I just created. And in totally, I have the other questions already previously done from my other menu. And now I'm going to give this, now I'll give it this point, and I will take this point downwards, just to make sure I have still 10. Now I have all these questions, and they're all right inside. Okay, so this is a very important button to see. This button over here gives me the preview is what the student sees when he sees the same question. So here's the same question. The computer will mess this up accordingly, and basically when it change it, it clicks on it and sends it, and that's what this is. Right? One answer. Okay, let's go back to edit mode, and let's get out of here. And let's do not update because we do not want to save this. Now we're back into our original unit. So before we end, we have one more thing for the gradebook to see, and that is what the students see. So let's go back into my student. And here is my student who is FS3. Remember, he gets the one that got did a very creative work, but did not color properly. So here is the units, and please notice that he has the gradebook over here. And he sees that in the Mavola column that out of 10, he got 9. And then Mavola in the lesson, Mavola paragraph, he got 4 out of the 10, but he did not answer the questions. And he also sees that he has letters. Letters not appear because he has to refresh. Oh, now they're updated. And we press the button, he sees that in one of the questions, the Baba says, nice, but try again. And that's specifically to see the question where he wrote it. By clicking on it, he sees that question. He wrote, we love Hashem, and the teacher does not like it. And therefore he's going to fix it and resubmit it. Okay, this is the student view. Obviously, we can expand this a little bit more. For lack of time, we won't. And we'll discuss this gradebook again when we discuss about the different lesson options that we have in future clips. Until then, have a wonderful time and good luck in the classes.